This episode is dedicated to Oliver. Welcome to Joy and Olives. It is August the 18th, 2025, and I'm checking my watch now. It is 9:35 p.m. and welcome to the show. Okay, so sorry guys. I don't know if any of you know this, but when I was a kid, I really wanted to be, actually no, not even when I was a kid. I think when I was in college. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a biologist. I had all these dreams. And then as I grew up, I really felt like I was called to be some kind of communicator. And I think it was either high school or college that I fell in love with the idea of being a news anchor. I never thought of being a radio DJ host, but yes, really wanted to be in front of the camera and to read off a teleprompter. That was like my dream, you guys. I was like, wow, what an amazing job just to read off a teleprompter, sit in front of a camera, look pretty, and talk. And actually, when I first moved to Singapore, I did apply to be a news anchor. And, they never called me back. It's fine, though, because honestly, the news has not been like, I don't even watch the news that much anymore. The news has not been very uplifting, has not been very encouraging in the last few years, especially since the pandemic of 2020. And I don't think I could see myself reading off depressing information to the world. Like, I honestly would find no joy and meaning in doing that. And so in 2022, when people started suggesting to me to start a podcast, I almost dropped the idea because I was like, well, it's not in front of a camera and it's just, my voice. But come to think of it, I am so much more comfortable recording voice messages than I am sitting in front of a camera. Another fun fact is that about 10 years ago or 9 years ago, when I was studying abroad in Israel, I really had a dream to start a travel vlog. And I attempted like filming a few things that I was going to put together for my very first episode. And it was pretty bad. I never ended up posting it, but one of my classmates, she like saw my footage and she was laughing so hard. She's like, Jazz, what are you doing? I had no experience. I was just going to learn on the go, but I ended up being so busy in this study abroad program that I just, I never had the time to put together the video clips, and maybe that was a blessing in disguise. So I want to thank the people who recommended that I do a podcast instead. This has been way more fun, way more relaxing. And I'll be honest, I can track the statistics of who's listening, and I don't have a bunch of listeners. I really don't. Like, it's like only in the double digits at times. I've had a few episodes that has gone into 3 digits, but it's usually double digits. It's a nice cozy group. And at first I was like, oh man, when you start something, I'm someone that I dream really big. And in fact, I think I need to dream small, because not that it's a bad thing to dream big, but God's way is that he always starts with very little things. He does. He doesn't start with big things. He starts with the small things. And when you're faithful with small things, it grows. And I think, at least for me, if I was given a windfall, if if something huge just happened to me, all like fame, like let's just say I rocketed into fame all of a sudden. Excuse me. I don't know, maybe that would get to my head a little bit. And it would actually be worse for me. The book of Proverbs chapter 10 says that the blessing of the Lord makes rich and he adds no sorrow to it. And what that means to me is that God's blessing will always prosper us, but without the sorrow that can come with, you know, I guess good thing, like seemingly good things that happen to other people, but when they look back, it's really not what they wanted. For example, there are tons of people who become incredibly wealthy in a very short amount of time, but then their marriage suffers or they lose their relationship with their kids. Like, you know, so sometimes we may envy other people, and yet really the Lord is doing things in our lives incrementally and not suddenly. Sometimes he does. I'm not going to lie. There are sudden blessings from the Lord, and we rejoice in those. But the incremental blessings are great too. Okay. Sorry for that little bit of personal information. Let's just get back into what I really wanted to share today. By the way, this podcast is coming to 3 years. It's turning 3, and I dedicated this episode to Oliver. She's a new friend that I just made last week, and she's so cute. You know, I noticed that she had a keychain on her purse, and it was 2 olives, like two little smiling olives. I was like, what? That is so cute. And so she showed me where to get it in the mall that we were at in Malaysia. And so now I have an incredibly cute pair of olives that you know, they're a keychain, but I have it dangling off of my podcast microphone. It's so cute, you guys. And I feel like it's like the first little piece of branding that Joy and Olives has. You know, who knows? Maybe one day when I have Joy and Olives merchandise, I will just have to carry these little olive keychains. It's so cute. Okay, anyways. So what was I doing in Malaysia? How did I meet Oliver? So, you know, I was there for a really cool young adults event. It was so fun and needed. And I planned on just coming back home to Singapore immediately after the event was over. But a friend of mine wanted to extend her trip in Malaysia, and I decided to extend just an additional day to hang out with her. I haven't seen her in like a few months, maybe like 5 months, and I just felt like I wanted to get that quality time in with her. And at the same time, I was just exhausted. If you guys listened to the last episode, you know, I went through possibly the most life-changing event, which was the Israel-Iran war. So when I came back to Singapore 5 weeks ago, you know, it felt like I had just run a marathon because of all that happened during my time doing my research in Israel. And then immediately upon landing in Singapore, I had enrolled in an intensive course that was 4 weeks long. So it was like finishing one marathon only to start another immediately back to back. And the intensive course just finished last week. And then immediately the next day was this young adult event. So it was, I don't think I've been so exhausted. And so, yeah, I really needed that time. I just really needed a day to just chill. So when my friend suggested that I just book a hotel room with her, I was like, yes, I need this. I need, you know, as extroverted as I am, I was having this conversation with her and her friends on Friday. I was like, you know, guys, I think I realized that inside of me is an inner introvert because I think in the last few days I've just wanted to be alone. I've just wanted to be, you know, yes, like maybe seeing people, interacting with people like for like 5% of my day, and the rest of my day I just I just want to be alone. And so I've been journaling a lot. I've been getting more sleep, and just, yeah, like, and that's just been really healthy for me. So I take back what I said in my last episode that I'm super extroverted. I don't think I am as extroverted as I am. I think it's a 50-50 situation. Okay, but anyways, um, so my friend, she's awesome in that she knows what I need, and she's like, okay, Jazz, like, why don't we just have a really chill day in the capital city of Malaysia? And I was like, great. So we didn't make any plans. I think we like went to a cafe. We sat there. I read a book. It was good. And yeah, and we were just kind of wandering around. Um, we we finally ended the day in a mall, and I found, Baskin Robbins is my childhood ice cream shop, and the both of us got my favorite childhood ice cream flavor, which is strawberry, and we just sat there and we're eating ice cream. And I was telling my friend that the very next day we would be celebrating my grandmother's 90th birthday back in Singapore. And she was like, oh, no way. And she's like, well, why don't we like try to find a gift for your grandma? And I was like, my grandma's 90. I have suggested gift ideas to my mom before, and my mom is always insisting that my grandma doesn't want anything. Like, she doesn't really need anything. And I was like, yeah, and so I was like, I really don't know what to get for her. But I did have an idea. I said, what would be nice though would be, those big numerical balloons. I would really love to go somewhere where they would have like balloons, like a 9 and a 0. And I would love to put that up so that we could take pictures of my grandma with her big balloons. And my friend, being the resourceful woman she is, looked around the mall and was like, you know what? I think there's a shop here where we can get exactly that. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, let's go. So after we finish our ice cream, we go to the shop and we head to the back, and it turns out they have a 9 balloon, but they don't have a 0 balloon. And I am devastated. I actually am, because I had been dreaming about getting this for my grandma all this time. And we were like, oh man. I mean, okay, to be fair, they did have another 0 balloon, but its design wasn't matching with the 9, and it would have just looked really off if both of them were paired together. So, it was already late. The store was about to close. There wouldn't be any other balloon stores open at that time. And I had to go back to Singapore the next day. So I honestly was ready to give up. And we are about to leave the store. And you know what? I don't know like why I even did this, but there were kind of these different, there were shelves where the balloons were, and I just stuck my hand into one of the shelves, and someone had apparently wanted to buy a 5 balloon and a 0 balloon. Maybe they were turning 50 and for whatever reason they just stuck those 2 balloons like back in, like they didn't hang them up properly, in the shelving where the balloons should have been. They just stuck it in between the shelving. And because my hands had stuck, I had happened to put my hands in there, and when I drew it out, like I saw the 5 balloon, the 0 balloon, and I was so happy because that 0 balloon matched the 9 balloon in the color, in the size, and I just couldn't believe it. And, this is a PSA out there, a public service announcement out there. When you take things off of shelves, things that you want to buy, please put it back in its proper spot if you're not going to buy it anymore. You never know if someone is going to need it. But you know what? It's okay. All is well because I still ended up finding the zero balloon that had been stuck between the shelving. And so, we left the shop and I was honestly, that really, really made my day. Like if I had just stayed in KL, in Kuala Lumpur, for the sole purpose of getting that 90 balloon, like that was enough. And the next day, I went to the party and I surprised my grandma with the balloons. And she was so happy. In fact, she just called me maybe about an hour and a half ago just to thank me for those balloons. Like she's so cute. She's like, "Oh, like I can't believe you brought those all the way from Malaysia." I was like, "Grandma, it's really not a big deal. I mean, the balloons are very light and like really, like you are 90. This is the least that I could do. I didn't even know what else to get for you." And yeah, like it really, really touched her heart. So I wanted to record this episode just to say, okay, I know this is really random. You might not think the story is at all connected with this verse, but on Sunday at church, our pastor was sharing about this verse that says that God uses that which is nothing to bring to nothing the things that are. Okay, I know it sounds very complicated, but it's very, very simple. What this means is that God uses the things that don't even exist, and he brings those things into existence to bring those things that are in existence into non-existence. Does that help you to understand it better? Okay, if you don't get it, look up the verse yourself. I think it's 1 Corinthians. Wow, is it chapter 1, verse 27? I could be so off. I'm going to put the actual verse in the description of this podcast episode. But I thought of this verse because, like I said, I was looking for this zero balloon. And, the number 0 represents something that is non-existent. I was looking for it, and ironically, the 0 balloon was non-existent in this store. I mean, I went to the shelf, there were none left. And I was really about to give up, and I just kind of thought, okay, well, I guess my grandma's not going to have 90 balloons. And then when I said, when I stuck my hand in between the shelving and I found the 0 balloon, I was like, wow, like this is amazing. It's like I felt like I hit the jackpot. And when I brought those balloons and when we celebrated with my grandma, when I just saw the joy on her face, I recalled the second episode that I recorded ever on the Joy and Olives podcast. It's called I Hurt, But I Healed. And it's about my relationship with my grandma and how we had really, really big, we had a really big fallout, honestly, when I was a kid. And it sort of affected me all the way up until my mid-20s. And it was only when I moved back to Singapore and when I lived with her that I felt like the Lord really used those months to help me understand my grandmother better, and to hear her story. And she's not had an easy life at all, and yeah, just like he wanted me to better understand her. And it's not that our relationship became perfect. We still had some very tense moments, but the thing is that, wow, like just something as simple as bringing her 90 balloons, like really made her feel so special. And I'm so glad I did that. I'm so glad the Lord made the non-existent balloon existent and that, it would bring to nothing the things that are, meaning that, the fights that my grandma had and I had, I won't call them fights. It's a little dramatic. But the tense moments, the hurt, the misunderstandings, all that just really faded away. when we had our dinner with her on Saturday and we just celebrated her life. And, the Lord can use something so small to bring about big changes, big healings. He can even use something that is seemingly non-existent in your life now and bring it into your life somehow and use that to be a turning point, a tipping point in your life, especially when it comes to healing, whether it's personal healing or healing that you need with someone else, especially with family. God loves families, and he knows that families go through a lot, and sometimes we don't process our emotions very well with our family members. But I'm just praying that the Lord will use something small to bring about a reconciliation that you need with a family member. I definitely still need healing in my life. But seeing how things have turned out with my grandmother and I has just brought me so much hope. If you haven't listened to that episode yet, listen to it. Especially if you're going through something difficult with a family member. Really, there's so much hope. I wanted to give up on my relationship with my grandmother, and the Lord he has really turned things around for us. And my relationship with my grandmother now is probably one of the sweetest relationships that I have. All right, you guys, thanks for tuning into episode 32, and see you for the next one. Well, not see you. I guess metaphorically I'll see you. Okay, bye.